Hey everyone, Rich Monroe here with B&B Investing, our weekly Facebook Live. Thanks for jumping on with us. As a reminder, B&B Investing Group helps new investors kind of navigate, new and existing investors navigate the short-term rental model. Whether you're doing acquisitions, managing properties, or doing the rental arbitrage or master lease strategy, we help you look at those different options and kind of grow a scalable business. If that's something that you're interested in learning more about, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can ping me on Facebook Messenger, and we can have a quick time to chat and check in on what you guys have going on with your real estate business. So super excited today. I've got a good friend of mine, John An, on with us. He is currently with a technology company called TechTape, and they specialize in revenue management. But more importantly, I'm anxious to kind of hear his story and how he got started in the short-term rental space and kind of where he's going with this business. And so, John, thanks so much for taking the time to jump on today. Would love to kind of get a brief introduction before we jump in.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rich. Really excited to be on your show. We've known each other for like 4 or 5 years now, so really happy to have this conversation. Basically, like everyone else, I went to school for short-term rental education, right? No, there's no there's no such thing as a short-term rental, college or university degree right now. So I stumbled onto this business like everyone else. So I'm an architect by training. I was a sustainability consultant within the architecture space, and then I went out on my own as a developer, and so I developed ground up new construction, foundation, and all single family homes as my first entrepreneurial journey, building what people would call McMansions. And during, when you're developing, cash is always flowing out until you sell, and then you replenish your war chest, right? So I was in the middle of a development project, and I just wanted some positive cash flow. So on a vacation to Hawaii, I decided to look around and invest in a small short-term rental property. And that's how I stumbled onto this whole industry. And then I've had many different routes within the industry, but right now I've taken all of my experiences and focused it on providing technology and revenue management services for the industry.
All right, very cool. So you started out with a kind of a vacation spot. So you were able to generate revenue and then also have somewhere to stay when you go out there to vacation, right? Or no? Was it strictly an investment for you?
For us, from day one, it was strictly an investment. Of course, we liked, going to Hawaii. That was the other thing. I was very comfortable with Hawaii because we had been going there frequently. I was blessed that we had a family friend who allowed us to use their property whenever we went to Hawaii. And so it was not this inaccessible or very expensive trip every time we went. So we just looked at it purely as a positive cash flow real estate investment as a starting point. So we hired a manager to run our first property, and it exceeded our investment goals and targets. Like the manager was terrible. And so because of that, I started taking little pieces on, building my tech stack. I've onboarded and offboarded more than 15 different PMSs in that journey. And so during
15.
15, yes, I like doing damage. And basically I started rolling my sleeves up and like playing with all the technology, revenue management, everything. So that was part
so those of you that are fairly new to short-term rental, so a PMS is a property management system or a channel manager, and so most of the time we engage with that obviously to help synchronize our calendar, be able to place on multiple platforms, and kind of synchronize your inbox in one place. And so how did you go through 15 different iterations or different platforms of that? That's incredible. Over what period of time?
Probably over about a 2.5 year period of time. and it's a lot easier when you don't have a lot of properties. So I was at around 4 or 5 properties when I was doing it. So it was relatively easy because the number of properties were lower. So this is kind of a tidbit for all the new investors in the short-term rental space. The reason why I switched 15 times because I figured there has to be this perfect software system that would just work for my business. And there are all these features and checklists and things that you look at and you're like, oh, this must be able to do everything. And
did you find it?
Why do you think TechTape exists? Essentially, there is no perfect software. And the reason, it's not because the companies are bad or, no one can make perfect software. Again, because there's no short-term rental school.
Yeah.
Everyone's business is different. Even though we all do generally the same thing, the way we do it is all different. And so while, 3 PMSs might have the same feature list, the way they implement it, the way it works for your business, it's just not gonna, fit what you need. And so that's why I went through 15, searching for the perfect one. And so, guys, if you want a little shortcut, there is no perfect software. So kind of find one that works reasonably well.
Find one that's close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then build things around it that fills, fits your needs.
Now, so your company TechTape now focuses specifically on revenue management, which is such a key part in this business. And a lot of us that have been doing this professionally and managing properties and have large number of properties, the revenue management is typically sometimes it's a thorn in our sides. And one of those things where it's not easy to delegate. Now, you can delegate a lot of the guest communications, a lot of back office, creating listings, things of that nature. But the revenue management piece is one of those things that is kind of, as an owner of a property management business, kind of hold pretty close to your chest. And is one of those things where, to your point, we all kind of treat it a little bit differently. And so I'm anxious to understand kind of what drove you to that direction and kind of, how you created TechTape and kind of how that came to be.
Yeah, so I'll just start kind of on the journey of how we got here, and then talk about the revenue management side. So when I shortly after I started, I had my second property. My first property was a studio, the one that I had a terrible manager for. My second property was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. I just want to show a picture of the property while
absolutely.
I talk about this.
So those of you that are jumping on, if you wouldn't mind throwing a quick yes or okay in the comments if you can hear us okay. I just want to make sure that our audio is working pretty good. So if you can hear us, please throw that in the chat for us.
So I'll just continue on. This is just, I don't need to go full screen on this, but basically almost from day one, I was generating over $200,000 in gross booking revenue on a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. It's in Honolulu, but it was not. If you look at the building and everything, it was not some Ritz-Carlton lap of luxury building. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was very okay, this is what I do. And when I went to conferences and spoke with people and friends, that $200,000 with one condo was equivalent to people's maybe 20 to 30 unit portfolio in terms of revenue generation at that time.
Right. John, can you switch it to the full screen? It might be easier to see if you put it on the full.
Okay. Can you see it?
Let's do this. Actually, no, it's actually, well, there we go. That's it right there. Perfect.
All right. Yeah. So, this, and this is a renovated version of the property, but so it was kind of just a standard, 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. And year over year, I was generating over $200,000 in gross booking revenue. 2023, we ended up with $209,000 in revenue. I'm gonna stop. We don't need to look at the screen anymore.
All right. And then what was the average for the rest of the market there? compared to your unit?
So even back then, I would look on AirDNA and other data sources. Even back then, and like the top of market would be like 125, maybe $135,000. The average would like just barely break 100,000. And so, it was just kind of like, all right, like this is what, you do. So then friends in Hawaii asked, can you do this for me? And so just kind of as a side gig, I helped them out. And then people on the mainland started asking me to do it. So in Florida and Minnesota, and results varied, but they were all kind of outsized relative to the market. And so just kind of doing this as kind of a side business within my Ohana stay, my Hawaii business is what we have been doing.
So you're almost, I mean, that's pretty like impressively increased over what the market's doing. I mean, you're almost, I mean, that's like a 70-80% increase over the market. How did you have time to do that when you were testing 15 different PMSs at the same time? Well, or did that contribute to that end game? I see, what is it that you did differently, I guess?
So long story short, I've distilled everything, and now this is, how we approach revenue management and TechTape. But long story short, what we were consistently doing is finding what the market would bear. So finding what people who are booking at any certain point period in time are willing to pay, as opposed to finding what the market is doing and then trying to replicate what the market is doing. There's a nuance to that. A lot of people think revenue management is like pretty much all data driven. But some of the best revenue managers, I don't know if you know John at Wheelhouse or Emily Patillo with a Highgate, but there's this theory going around. He's an artist. Emily was a photographer. I was an architect. There's a kind of a theory going around that there's actually a lot more art, not a lot more, but there's a lot of art and kind of not a direct one-to-one of like calculate and then you get to the right answer, but being able to take information or take, input and make some creative or, intuitive decisions around it is something that we discuss. And so that's there's a process to finding what the market will bear. So let me use an example here. 2021, 2022, a lot of people, they had their Price Labs or Wheelhouse on set it and forget it mode. And, they were making like 25% more than they did the year before. And they're like, oh my God, I'm killing it, right? But I've had clients within those markets who achieved 50, 60, 70% more, over market, right? So there's a lot of money that people left on the table, but money was coming in. And that's what the data set was saying is like, this is your price, this is, your ADR and all that. So what we're doing is it's a very continual testing and experimentation process that we've refined. So it's not just, wild guessing. Yeah. Where you're finding consistently what are people willing to pay 3 months out, 6 months out, 12 months out, and we're calibrating that. And you'll be surprised. The data set in the short-term rental space is made up of lots of different operators making guesses.
Right.
Because of that average that the data set tells you is very far off from what the real potential is. And so that's, I hope that makes sense, but that's really our secret sauce. And it's not even a secret sauce because I'm talking about it, right? But that's our secret sauce.
No, it certainly makes sense. But to me, it's ballsy because like if I've got a average nightly rate, 3 months out at $295, and I say, well, let me put it to $450 and see what happens. At some point when I don't get any bookings, it'll be pretty scary, right? So So it's definitely got to be an art and a science to how you manipulate that for sure.
Yes, and then the other factor is the partners that we work with, right? Depending on their risk profile or their risk tolerance, we can kind of push it further or scale it back, right? So there is no right answer
Yeah.
if you think about it. And so, everyone thinks, the data is going to tell you, Think about this, the same exact property. Let's say you have two, a multiverse, same exact property, same time, same market conditions. If you have someone who loses sleep because, the calendar is empty 1 month out, right? And they're like, oh my God, I'm not going to get booked. And then you also have someone who's like loses sleep because the calendar is booked out 3 months because they feel like they gave it away, right? That same property will make vastly different amounts of money, amount of revenue. And so your risk tolerance is another huge factor that goes into, what kind of revenue potential a property can make.
Got it. Now, how does this process for you work in markets where there's a much shorter lead time? Like, for example, Atlanta for a very long time, the lead time was like 5 to 7 days, and maybe even shorter. A little over a year ago. So if I'm getting most of my bookings in that 7 to 10 day time frame, does your strategy still employ with similar results, or is it a kind of a different animal?
We've worked in those types of markets. We haven't worked in Atlanta, but we have partners globally. So I'll first start with, again, I talk about the data set being, I'm not saying the data is wrong, right? But a lot of the reason why, think about this, is the lead time, is the booking window collapse because people's travel patterns are different? Or is it because everyone in the market is holding their prices too high? And then it's saying everyone's dropping their price at the last minute, and that's when all the bookings coming in, right?
It's by design. Yeah, it's almost like it's defining its own end game, essentially.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah.
And so by understanding it with that point of view, you can actually, I won't say like, we can craft it like art, but you can get it to a point where like you want bookings 30 days out. All right, like let's implement a strategy that gets us towards that, right? And so that your nightly rate might be a little lower than what you would normally want to get 30 days out, but that might start increasing your lead time to get your level of comfort. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes perfect sense, and it would also potentially increase your occupancy levels as well. So,
which then should increase your RevPAR because you're getting it at a higher rate probably than the last minute discount within the 5-7 days, and you're getting a higher occupancy. Which, if you're doing, I think you can take that and realize, and then kind of infer back why we were able to like double or triple, not triple, almost double, kind of the high of the market is by being able to play with the, the performance of the market and not just taking the data at face value and say, oh, my market is a 7-day lead time market.
No, I like it. That makes sense. And so by your example with your condo in Hawaii, you don't necessarily have to have the top of the end market type property either to be successful with this, right? If anything, it sounds like it's better that you're kind of like an average type looking listing.
We work with all types of listings. The better the property is, or the better your SEO is, or the better your amenity is, your pictures, whatever it may be, the beauty of our approach is we find what the market will bear. So we're not sitting here saying add a hot tub and we'll add $50 per night, right? Like we have some clients like, oh, we're about to add a hot tub, so please raise the price. I'm like, as far as the world is concerned, the hot tub does not exist, right? But if the hot tub gets in and it's advertised correctly, we'll gravitate to what the market will bear for that. So the nicer the property you have, probably the higher, the better results we can get. But even with average run-of-the-mill property, the approach is not dependent on, you having the best SEO or the best amenities or anything. We kind of find what the market will bear for your property as you present it to the world.
Okay. Are you doing anything with helping with direct bookings, or is everything that your approach is more geared around all of the different platforms that you might have on your channel manager?
It's definitely highly geared towards the OTAs because that's where all the eyeballs are, right?
Mhm.
Now, for my own short-term rental business, I use the same revenue management. We're partners, right? We're sister companies, and we're not like trying to grow our direct booking business. It's not like a central goal, but part of our pricing strategy is different people book on different platforms or direct booking website based on how the price is and some of the value that you're getting. So when we're working with our partners, we can complement their direct booking strategy with, how do we present the price on your direct booking website versus Airbnb versus booking.com. But we are not a direct booking generator or platform. I would not consider myself a direct booking.
That's not the focus at all. It's more around maximizing your revenue with the OTAs, essentially.
Yep, that's a primary avenue of revenue generation.
Got it. I'd be interested if you could throw up, I don't know if you have it in the slide that you have now, but you showed me that slide where you had an example on a chart of your performance compared to what the rest of the listings were doing. And I think that really just paints the picture. I know we can talk about the numbers, but I thought that was a pretty powerful demonstration.
All right, so I think this will graphically show. I'm gonna go full screen now again. I think between this slide and this slide will show kind of what we're doing versus what a lot of other folks are doing. So this is representation of. So let me explain this graph, right? So green line is actual booked, price that a property was actually booked. Gray line is when it, didn't get booked, so it was not, it was unoccupied. The dark blue dots are competitors, where they actually got booked, and then like the light dots, gray dots, are when competitors did not get booked, right? So this is, I won't say a competitor, and these two graphs are of different markets. So, don't compare side by side, but this is how most people's revenue management or revenue looks like. Basically, it goes up on the weekend, goes down weekday, up weekend, down weekend. There might be some factors that spike it up, but if you see it's fairly consistent, this is basically following the market, using the data, and then making some adjustments. But you see, it's very, I call it, it's like someone who's very healthy and is not about to have a heart attack, right?
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, this is a perfectly, valid way of doing revenue management and getting the revenue that you need. Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. I just lost my spot. Okay. So this is representative of that 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo that I showed the picture of before.
Yeah.
And basically, again, same thing. This is that property. And what this shows is, it's like someone about to have a heart attack, right? It's like up, down, upper, going all over the place, not necessarily following weekend, weekday. I mean, it is, right, in small measures, but it's not this like, consistent. And this represents essentially finding what the market will bear. While most of the market was down here, what we did is like, okay, like there's a peak weekend for some reason, and we're able to capture this, almost $900 a night booking for that property. But then immediately, like we're able to adjust down to try to fill this occupancy. And by continually, playing with what the market will bear, all this white space essentially equates to money that a lot of my competitors left on the table. And if you look over this period of time, that's, the area under the curve is quite substantial, right?
Most definitely. Yeah.
So I think this
That's
is
why
the best visualization of what our revenue management looks like, if you can say what it looks like, versus what
right.
standard revenue management tends to look like.
Got it. No, that pictures 1,000 words, right? So that's definitely, impressive and speaks to kind of the, the work that you've put into making those adjustments and improvements. And so what's your goals in the future, John? Are you looking to grow your TechTape company? Are you looking to grow your short-term rental business at the same time? What's the outlook in the next couple of years for you?
So Ohana Stay, which is my management company, my wife has actually taken over the operation of that company, and we actually don't want to scale. We want to grow organically, so we're not looking to just bring on properties. We're very picky about not only the property that we bring on, but the owner, and make sure that it's a good package, good partnership, and they're happy with the revenue. We take great care of the property. TechTape, on the other hand, is initial. So I created TechTape as a separate entity a little over 2 years ago. Just seeing that we were able to add value to people, not just in Hawaii, but in lots of different states within the United States. Um, and at this point right now, we have, we're working with partners in Australia, in England, and Canada, as well as, Arizona, Texas, New York, New Jersey, Florida, lots of different states. And we are, we have about 35 partners that we're working with. We're currently providing revenue management for about 300 properties. That's not a huge number for a company, but our capacity is a lot higher. We've built back-end systems to help us augment what Price Labs or Wheelhouse and everything does. So our goal is actually to really, really scale up TechTape, obviously as a company and business for us, for my family and I. But more importantly, I do believe, whether in good times or bad times, a lot of people are leaving a lot of money on the table. And, we want to kind of open up that potential of, not leaving money on the table or leaving less money on the table, because it is very possible. And like, our confidence is really high because we've been able to replicate it even in Australia, where I've only been to once and I don't even know, that market, right? But
Yeah.
we're replicated in lots of different markets. And so, yeah, the goal for TechTape is to really grow this as a large business.
Got it. Very cool. So if we had any of our members that were interested to learn more and maybe schedule a Zoom meeting with you to kind of do a deeper dive on what they're doing with their business, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So our website is gettechtape.com. So you can learn more there. I'm also both the company page and my personal page on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active there, so you can find me. I think if you just look up John An TechTape, I should pop up. And as long as it's not a scammy sales outreach, I pretty much accept all requests.
Yeah.
And so you can connect with me there. And then either way from there, you can always schedule a 30-minute call with me. It's not a sales call, it's an informational call. I'm happy to, even if you just want to bounce some ideas off, I'm happy to have a brief conversation around it just to get to learn about you and your business. So I'm pretty open with my time as long as it's not a scammy sales pitch.
All right. And so I put the link for your website in the comment section so everybody can access it there. So how does your cost for your services work?
So we charge 5% of the revenue that we generate for you. We don't charge on your cleaning fee. We don't charge on taxes, and we don't charge on the OTA fee. So we subtract the OTA fee from our, when we calculate the fee. We only charge on the bookings that we bring in. So if your calendar is, 2 months full, we have no business touching that. If you have more than 25 properties, we do have, volume discounts and ways to work in a different way. But at a smaller scale, the 5% is what we do.
And so even if you have one property, that's something that you guys could help with as well.
I think that's actually one of the unique propositions. Most other companies require, 10 minimum properties or 20 minimum properties. We have partners who have just one property. We have partners who have 50, 60, 70 properties. So, we're able to kind of scale up and down based on your needs. I think that's really, it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's fairly, I guess you could call it semi-customized or like tailored, like a suit, right? You get something kind of off the shelf, but then we tailor it so that it fits what you need for your business.
All right, awesome. And so, are you able to offer like a special discount to B&B Investing members that might be interested?
If you reach out to us and you mention B&B Investing or Rich Monroe as how you found us, we're happy to give you a 10% discount for the lifetime of your, working with us. And so, that's a pretty substantial offer just for knowing Rich.
Very cool. So, I'd like to encourage people to think about, even if you're starting with 1 or 2 properties, I always tell people with short-term rentals, you really got to run it like a business to be successful. And revenue management is such an important part of it. And, it costs to get the best. And so everything that I do when I've started with one property, I kind of treat it like as I'm growing, I'm going to have 100 properties. And so it's a cost of doing business to basically be able to peel off different focus efforts on different aspects of the business. And I think, revenue management is definitely one of those things that needs a dedicated focus. And, handing it over to John and his team to kind of have that dedicated effort, I think is definitely something that can get you further and obviously potentially increase your revenue along the way as well.
So everything you said is right, but let me make one small adjustment. When you're working with a revenue manager or a revenue management company, it should actually end up being a profit center than a cost center. So if we're not making you more money and saving you more time, then we really shouldn't be working with you. That means you have the chops and you should be able to do it yourself. So while it seems costly, we should be able to more than make up in the increased revenue.
Yeah, definitely. And that is something that's definitely measurable, right? And so you can definitely compare where you've been historically, and you can also compare where your revenue numbers are compared to the market. And
exactly,
that's black and white, and you can kind of definitely track that progress for sure. All right. Well, John, I really appreciate you taking the time today. It was great learning a little bit more about your background, even though we've known each other for so long. I did learn a few more new things about you today, so that's really good. Thanks everybody for taking the time as well with this Facebook Live. Like I mentioned before, B&B Investing Group helps investors that want to grow. And if you're at that point where you're ready to start a scalable business, feel free to reach out to me directly. Send me a Facebook Messenger, and we'll connect. With that, John, I look forward to seeing you again at the next conference and the next meetup. Thanks again for your help.
Well, thanks, Richard. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.